Welcome to a new episode of Becoming a Post-Growth Planner: Obstacles and Challenges to Changing Roles and Practices. My name is Christian Lamker, Assistant Professor at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. And today, for this episode recorded at the end of 2024, I can welcome Luciana Maia from Erfurt here in this podcast, who will share local to global post-growth experiences.
Yes, first of all, thanks a lot, Christian, for inviting me. It's a real honor for me to be here. I've listened to all your podcasts, and I appreciate all your efforts. Yeah, my name is Luciana. You can call me Lucy. Lucy Maia. Was born and raised in Brazil, but I've been living now for half of my life, so 23 years in Germany. I have a background in engineering, and I went to Weimar for studies almost 20 years ago of infrastructure and environment. And my focus was on circular economy, but I also then find my sweet spot on the topic of cities and climate change. And I've been working on that since then, especially as an advisor in International Development Corporation, and since a few years with my own little company. Cool. Yeah, that's one of my hats.
Yeah, we've been in loose contact already for a couple of years, strengthened also through the municipal degrowth network in which you are highly active. And that said, you're also, I would say, one of the early figures in discussions that bridge research interests, but also activism and politics across various spatial scales in post-growth debates. Can you take us a bit into your current work and explain some major directions, projects that you're currently working on or have just finished?
Yeah, happy to do so. And it's not so easy because I've been working with many different interesting projects and amazing colleagues. But I would like to present and highlight one project very dear to my heart, which is a tool, a method called City Words. We have developed it for the aim of localizing the global agendas. What is meant by that? To help stakeholders at the local level and advisors that are working with them to make sense of the different global agendas. So we are talking about, of course, the Agenda 2030 with the SDGs, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, but also, of course, climate as a topic and all the different agendas that are that have been decided on the global level. This tool is very easy to use. It goes along several steps and helps this making sense of what it means to implement, for example, SDG 11 at which is the city SDG at the local level. I recommend to look at it. It's open source. There are many resources there. You can log in and have also a community space. And the most recent application, I've been in many countries. I'm very happy that I had this opportunity. But the most recent application was in Bangladesh, where we had the opportunity to work with very different partners from GIZ, colleagues from Bangladesh directly, with different ministries, and also with different cities. And by being there, we were able to understand the demands from this local level, and also develop this training approach, this capacity building approach, in order for the cities to really connect the projects that they were implementing to the different SDGs, to also see the synergies, so things that are really mutually towards one goal, but also the conflicts, right? And there are many conflicts, and it's also about like this integrated thinking, and also looking on how you can better monitor results of projects that you're doing. So the idea was also, to bring this at an institutional level, that the training is being held by the national government of Bangladesh, and that they can take that further into other cities. And I think it's very, very successful. And there are many other examples also of other countries. So this is what I have been working on, among other things.
Sounds like you're highly engaged in a variety of projects and also countries and relations. Maybe you can also take us a moment into the more difficult sides of that, and which major obstacles did you encounter to localize such global agendas when they meet local context, culture, history that also play a crucial role?
Yeah, well, I like to be a person that not always look at challenges, but I do face them, and I'm well aware. And I would like to start by stating that it's quite hard for implementing global agendas at the local level for cities to own these agendas if they are not on the discussion tables. So I think, for example, ITLE, which is this network for sustainability, they have been doing a great work in advocacy for bringing more mayors and more local level to this decision making, because in the end, most of the things are being implemented and being solved at the local level. And that's, I think, what we should have in mind. Whatever we can solve at the local level, let's solve it there. But then they need more power in the decision making of how, this different frameworks are being set. So having said that, I think it's also important then to look at the different special cases that exist, because countries are just so different, right? And there are different levels of centralization, decentralization, different levels of commitment, and also the cultural and geographical and historical perspective. The challenge that exists in many of the places that I have been are, even if the decentralization, so the devolution of power has happened, on the paper, like by law, the resources that exist at the local level are not yet there. There is a lack of all kinds of resources, from women manpower to the knowledge to the finances that actually are needed for providing all the different kinds of goods and services. At the same time, the cities are faced by really an impressive development of population. So the pace of population growth, the growth of the city, the urbanization in itself, it's very challenging. And at the same time, much of it happens unplanned, informally. And there is a lack of planning professionals, actually. So there could be more cooperation also, for example, of cities within Europe, or in Europe and the global south, to help also build the capacity of planners there as well. And I think there are also two more systemic changes that exist, which is the power structures, right? So how are decisions being made? Who owns the city? Who is selling all the properties and the land that exists? Who has the interest, right, in developing the city the way that they are being developed, which is not sustainable at all, I would say. And on the other hand, or back alongside this, is the short termism, right? Because normally politicians think in political cycles, short-term cycles, and they are not really considering the future generations in their decision making. So the ingredient, in my opinion, is not to tell people, the municipalities, that they should do something for the sake of the global goals, because it's always about the local impact. But I think that putting these agendas on the table as well help them to also understand the global aspects of it, and also have better access to finance, for example, if they plan projects in a more integrated manner and more impact-oriented manner, and also gain international visibility. But of course, there are many limits, and I think we can discuss that more as well.
Yeah, from all your background, what has then sparked your interest in post-growth directions, and especially also their spatial, their planning implications, both globally but then also locally, just different examples and directions?
Yeah, well, it's very nice, because I connect this with two or three occasions, and one of that was that when I met you as well with Anton Blokologa, which is also a dear colleague and friend of mine, back in 2019 in Weimar at the Postwachstumsstadt conference. So I remember, I think you were with Viola, if I'm not wrong, presenting something there, and it was really a spark alongside with the book, the Doughnut Economics books by Kate Raworth, which I also came across in that year. And that made me realize, oh my God, that makes so much sense for my work as well, and connecting this global and planetary aspects, and also the social aspects, And I was always all the time thinking, oh, how can I use that to make sense for this approach into the local level, also in the global south. And I was also very happy then when the Doughnut Economic Actions Lab was founded, and many of the tools that they were creating there were working towards this localization also of the approach for cities.
Yeah, thank you. Looking forward also to what comes next in your life and also in the Doughnut Economics Action Lab. But in your work, you follow, I read on your website, the mission to foster, support, and enable transformation, participation, and resilience at the local level. We've heard that your experiences stretches to different continents and spatial scales, which means you also encounter many struggles for making post-growth work, also in your local and your daily business. Do you have ideas, directions, options? How can we keep a lively post-growth debate alive that does not paternalize other countries and also does not reproduce colonial legacies?
That's a great question. So I think that from the perspective of the area where I work, which is development cooperation, one can very much focus on the criticism and the colonial legacy. And I think that's an important discussion, and I'm also very critical to that. And I think that there are many things that need to change in that regard towards this balance of the North and South. But the question I like to raise towards the debate and the discourse is where is it happening? Of course, I see that the global North is very much now towards this degrowth and post-growth debate as a really recognition of their own responsibility. And I admire that. And I think that that's not about then imposing this into the South. And I think it has to be a very evidence-based discussion on the historical facts and also on how development is today. Where I would like to also see these discussions happen is at the UN level, at the supranational level for this really radical fairness of seeing the bigger picture and also understanding this historical responsibility and the double burden that is being brought upon the South, right, with the higher impact of climate change, by having much less responsibility of it and much less resources to adapt to the different impacts that are coming. And I like very much the metaphor by Timothée Parric. I think he's always mentioning the North. It's a tricky term, but as a whole, as being this obese kid, so to say, that leads to, put off weight, and the South as being the skinny, unnourished kid that needs also space and the resources that to gain weight and to thrive. So I think that the urgency that we need to deal with on both sides, right? Like how to help this balance to be overcome. And we don't even then think about the discussion about the rich, right, and the super rich, and what does that mean. But I think that the debate can also be at the local level, and I think that it's happening already. I see the issues, for example, of partnerships and cities that come into any kind of exchange, into peer-to-peer learning processes, because I think that's the other way around. I think that the North can learn much more from the South, and if we promote a discussion that is based on solidarity, that is based on shared values, and that is based on a common understanding of the historical perspectives, I think it is possible. I think it's also needed that some understand the privilege that they have, and that this privilege comes with responsibility, and that we are all in this together, and that we have to achieve the breaking of this balance that exists.
Yeah, so if we turn it around, which are experiences, examples, or ideas from outside of Europe, from the global South, that we should no longer oversee, and that we should really better understand and better use also for improvements in our global North world?
Yeah, it's funny because it's the mental model that guides us, right? Normally, people tend to see the informal or the less developed, quote unquote, just also asking what is development anyways, right? We could discuss that. But these are not places of scarcity. I think one can see there is, of course, material deprivation, and we should aim for a development, an economic development that provides this resources for people to have a bare minimum, right? This is the social foundation of the donut. But I think that these places are places of abundance, of creativity, of innovation. And in fact, they are already living along many of the post-growth principles, such as solidarity, conviviality, living with less, focusing on social innovation. The Doughnut Economic Action Labs, as I mentioned, has a lot of resources, and they are also collecting all these amazing ideas and initiatives also from many cities in the global south. I would recommend to look at the processes IPO in Malaysia have been going through, Cali in Colombia, even Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. They are working with the informal settlements, the stories and the good practices are everywhere, and we should just be with open eyes and open hearts to look at them, also from this learning perspective. So, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the image of a skinny child before. So also the strong need to secure basic needs for living in many parts of the world, still, unfortunately. But where do you see the more fruitful, positive scopes for really mutual learning, for learning together, for improving together in a post-growth direction?
Well, I think there are different areas, right? So at from academic perspectives, there could be one suggestion also for you. You could invite me for your courses, and I'm happy to also then report about the experiences from the South. But there are many layers of where decisions are being made and where learning processes can be supported. As I said before, at the UN level, I think there's clarity about the different approaches that will be needed for the South to be able to rise to a development that gives them the needs, meet the needs of the people within the needs of the planet, will mean something different as for the North and as for those in the middle, right? Because we have a variety of progress scales where the countries are. And the idea is actually to make countries, and then of course country governments, but also everyone living, right? Because it's also about decisions that everyone can take. And I think there is a really need for raising awareness and questioning also the privileged. And there is also, of course, difficult because there is always this debate about what we need to get rid of, and people don't want to get rid of things that they learn to love now. But it's also then about the other way around, showing what we will lose if we don't go for this transformation. So I think that there are really many layers at national, international, city to city level, but also for us as individuals, for us to have a really critical view of the state of the world, of the need for joint and common understanding of where we want to go, and that will mean different pathways for different countries, and also within a city itself, right? So the cities are not equal, and the cities are also segregating people and so forth. So there is also very need for a strong commitment at the local level for this to be the aim also at the city level.
Yeah, I would like to make a jump here a bit into the local context where you are right now at the moment, because you have many insights and own experiences also within local and regional activism and politics in around Erfurt in Germany. And there also, you're laughing, so I guess there are many experiences in diverse ways. So I'm interested in how do you answer objections to post-growth thinking, like if you hear what do I have to do with that? I have other urgent things to do. I think that's somewhere a statement you made a couple of days ago in another conversation. How do you answer such objections to post-growth?
Yeah, so it is very tricky, the language that we use, right? So, and I know that there has been a lot of debates about the term, and degrowth is even more hated as post-growth. And we have to find this common language first. I don't want to convince someone that just says to me, "Oh, I don't want to do anything. I have more important things to do." I have to go from the premise that this person wants to listen to my argument as well. So it depends on the time frame that I have to talk to someone like that, and I could even think of a 1-day workshop or a 1-week workshop to do with counselors at the political level, with civil servants, with the administrative level, in order to then debunk this argument, so to say, to let them actually understand that they do have a lot to do with the topic. And then perhaps by using also another language, or by touching upon the fears that they have. And on the other hand, by also understanding what are their concerns, what are their level of control. Many people in administration have just certain level of control of things that they can do. Of course, as individuals, they also have certain other measures that they can take. But once you go too much in the level of influence or levels of concern of things that is not on your agency, it becomes very tricky for people to then find meaningful ways of doing things. So I think, I would love to have a kind of approach to systematically, and also for people to come across different areas as well. Because in the end, it's also about this understanding that no one should be doing that alone. It is a concerted effort where everybody can, make a difference. But they also need to understand the conflicts and the difficulties that exist behind it. So I think this will bring me to further ideas of what I could develop and offer in my political and exchange settings that I have in the airport. And what makes me hopeful, an optimist or possibilist, as Luisa Neubauer likes to say, is the fact that there are many people that are just saying, "What can I do?" They are not saying, "Oh, this has not to do with me." They have this normative idea, this urgency, and the understanding of the urgency, but they are just like that. What can I do? What should I do? I miss this part of transferring all these ideas into the hearts of people, for them to really become able to start doing more. So I think that's still also the way to go.
Yeah, from the many ideas and models around, the Doughnut Economics has been one of the few ones that has really found a broader application so far in policy making in different contexts across the globe even. What do you say? What makes this model more appealing than many others, especially also for local policy making, for politics, to be at least a bit more widely discussed than other ideas that are flowing around already for many years?
Yeah, so you see, none of the concepts that are out there, such also as the SDGs or net zero or post-growth or economy for the common good, none of them have been developed with municipalities or the local level as the main target group, right? So there is a various degree of translation of this concept that is needed. In my opinion, the Doughnut Economics and the team behind Deal and the approach that they have took has been very successful, because they went where the energy was, and this is one of their principles. And they thought that the energy was with cities. So when Amsterdam started, then Melbourne, then Brussels, and this just started popping up. And of course, these are cities that have a very resourceful municipality, resourceful in terms of the persons behind taking these models and approaches into their own daily work and developing the strategies and so forth. So I think that the tool is, however, even for any kind of municipality everywhere, very powerful because it helps to visualize and communicate this goal, and it helps to make this tool your own with these visuals and this playfulness that it brings. It's of course always putting the ecological and the social dimensions into perspective, and also showing this global and local aspirations. So for me, it is very interesting to see how the cities worldwide are just really making this tool their own and using this a lot of in a participatory manner to involve the different different stakeholders, civil society, also business, and so forth. So and also this North and South portraits, they also bring this global justice perspective. So I think that's also very fruitful starting point for conversations as well, right? As a model, I think it is really looking in this agnostic way towards growth, and then helping the cities to build this vision and develop the measures and monitor the impacts. One can be also critical to that because all these approaches that are out there are still functioning in a system that is pushing towards growth, right? So can you be right in a wrong environment? That is a bit tricky, and there's right in a wrong environment that is a bit tricky. Things that are happening also a bit in a top-down manner. But on the other hand, I think that the more this bottom-up local initiatives show that is possible, the more pressure would come also for things to be changing in a more systematic, holistic manner at national and global level.
On the other side, we observe many struggles, local struggles that are often place-based, involving a diversity of people, of interests living in a very particular place, and also struggling with having productive post-growth oriented discussions, especially on certain moments, points of change where suddenly debates that start somehow moving forward then come to a stop by certain ideas, elements, suggestions. Do you observe certain trigger points that regularly are conflictual or bring debates somewhat to a halt, and then do not move further?
Yeah, so it really depends on the setting and the intention of people, right? That is coming together, and the reflection they have of their own biases and powers and privilege. People normally don't want to be told what to do. So it's quite tricky to come with sticks. You should come with the carrots and the incentives. In participatory and collaborative process, I think that they need to come to a joint agreement and have a consensus and debate and negotiate and deliberate. Normally people just don't know how to do that. That's one of the problems. We have been taught in the school that's not really happening. So for me, agency and responsibility are very key here. On the other hand, and then the set of skills that you need for that, right? So I think there is a huge amount of skills development that needs to be done, and you can look at the inner development goals. I think this is one of the tools that also bring a lot of ideas for this transformational skills that human beings need as well. But of course, nowadays I face the challenges of the very conservative, very right ideas that are coming to the table, and I have learned that I can find these ideas wrong, but I still need to talk to that person. So I cannot just ignore this kind of debates, and I try, at least in my way of looking at it, I try to understand where the fears are coming from, and give the arguments that the fear should be coming from elsewhere, and also then show that in certain matters of control, where they have control, that they can be taking decisions differently. It's of course not easy. The ideology is there, and the way people consume the media that is out there is also for the confirmation bias, and it's sometimes really frustrating. But I think we need also these spaces for discussion, and we need to debate with people. We cannot just ignore. That's not going to work, and we need to find ways to find more this common ground. So I wish more of this spaces also here in my city.
Yeah, looking more towards the future and also the positive ways to shape that future by urban policy, by planning and beyond. Which future-oriented advice would you give local policymakers and planners to really take the courage for post-growth thinking, for continuing, starting, fostering, strengthening these debates?
I have 3 points, Christian. I thought that, first of all, it's important to understand your control. What's your mandate and what you can demand? What do you need from other stakeholders, and how to best get that? And that's, of course, here always the tricky part, that someone is steering the process, and of course, this person has different kind of bias and interest. Start small, find the niches, experiment. So the urban living labs are a great format. Find allies. Also, unusual alliances might be something to look for. Bring the fun factor and create the storytelling, because it's also about reaching people's heart. Emotion is very important for people, I think, also to feel empowered towards action. I want to also recommend looking much more on the common public or public civic partnerships in this realm of different partnerships. I see a lot of promising futures for that. Make sure that you break the silos and bring distant places, nature, the modern human world, and the future generations into decision-making processes. So I really love this Japanese movement of future design councils. Have you heard about it? It's really nice. People in the council, when they are representing the future, and it's not really very distant future, it's them themselves in 30 years. They put a robe and they are very like formal, but they are trying to take this position of what will this decision impact my life in 30 years. And we should start doing that, because we need to look at the future also as part of the decision making.
Yeah, thank you. We are recording this at the end of 2024, so it's good to take a positive outlook on how to positively shape the future in 2025 and beyond in the coming years, with post-growth planning, but also other means of public policy, of decision-making that we have available. In this podcast, we give the guest the very final sentence by finishing the line, post-growth planning is. And same this time, I would like you to finish the sentence, post-growth planning is.
Yeah, well, it's a crucial piece of the puzzle towards a socio-economic transformation, an important instrument to help meet the needs of people within the means of the living planet. But post-growth planning to me is also about building bridges among governance sector scale stakeholders. And it's a pathway for collective slowing down towards sufficiency, focusing on what is enough and the things that really matter in life, such as prosperity of time, relationships, and beauty.
Many thanks. That's a call to all our listeners to start slowing down a bit after listening to this podcast, rethink, and then try to act differently in small steps, in larger steps, within the mandate that is given and within the possibilities that are around. Many thanks, Lucy, again to Erfurt.
Thank you, Christian. Take care. All the best.
Thank you.